I will be calling on members of FOCAP who have been lined up for this afternoon. First up is Mr. Mika Flores of Reuters.
Good afternoon, Mr. President.
Good.
Thank you for the opportunity. Mr. President, on the 10th anniversary of the 2016 Arbitral Award, divisions have emerged within your own administration over the provisional understanding with China on the resupply missions in Second Thomas Shoal or Ayungin Shoal. As the country's chief architect of foreign policy, do you believe that that provisional arrangement has served Philippine interests and should remain in place, or do you think it should now be reviewed or revised or perhaps even terminated at this point?
Yes, there has been discussion recently about this, but I think the discussion is centered in the wrong things. It's focused on the wrong thing. These arrangements that we make are to prevent any kind of miscalculation, mistake that might lead to even greater tension and hopefully hopefully not conflict. And that's what we are trying to avoid, and that's why we make these arrangements. And it is especially important because we have to resupply our people who are still on the Sierra Madre. And if we just barge on through without what we actually do, we talk. There's been talk about a provisional agreement, but essentially what the Philippines does is that when we are going to conduct a resupply mission, we issue what is known as a NOTAM, which is just a notice of your maritime movements that our ship is going to go from here to there, and they will stay here, and we'll stay there for 2 days or whatever it is, and then come back. And that is the extent of it, and that does not somehow make more vulnerable or give up any of our sovereign rights, any of our territorial claims and our well-recognized territory, especially under the UNCLOS and all other the arbitral awards. Nothing of that has been weakened in any way, shape, or form. It is just an arrangement to inform not any specific country or group or vessel, but everyone who is in the West Philippine Sea, that the vessels from the Philippines are going to sail from this place to that place on this date, and that is all. So that there is no confusion that these are unidentified vessels and they have suddenly appeared out of nowhere. It's really it does not lessen. Does not weaken. There you go. It does not weaken our position in any way in terms of the arbitral awards, in terms of the UNCLOS, in terms of our exercise of our sovereign rights, in terms of our defense of our territory. And so it is just a practical. It is a standard practice for all vessels that sail to issue the NOTAM, which is what we do. So in consonance together with the standard practice of all other vessels that sail through the West Philippine Sea.
Just a very quick follow-up, Mr. President.
Yes.
The context of my question is because Secretary Teodoro has publicly mentioned that he is not aware of such understanding, and then the DFA is saying that there has been 15 or 16 RORE missions over the past 2 years since the provisional understanding that has been carried out without incident. So, based on your answer to my first question, so does that, it seems, and would you confirm that that arrangement still stands from your perspective, and you're aware of the details of it, and it should be the status quo going forward?
Well, I hesitate to use the word arrangement, because we're not going into any arrangement with everyone. We're just conducting ourselves according to the standard practice of the vessels sailing in the West Philippine Sea, and for that matter in other seas. So there's no special arrangement that we, somehow the implication is that we have to ask for permission or that we have to give up some of our rights. That's not the case at all. The case is very simple. Our ships are our vessels will sail, they will resupply or they will patrol or they will, and any time that they do sail, that NOTAM is issued. And that's the extent of it.
Thank you.
Up next is Ms. Yan Fang Zhu of Phoenix TV.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. Sir, you have spoken about resetting relations with China on at least 2 occasions this year. First was partly in response to the national energy emergency in connection to the possibility of a joint oil and gas exploration with China. And then more recently during your meeting with the Chinese ambassador Jing Chen just last month. Mr. President, what specifically would a reset with Beijing look like in practice? And with less than 2 years left in your term, what realistic scope is there for any significant change in the relationship with China?
Well, it's a reset in the sense that if we are beginning to detect or to feel an increase in tensions or an escalation in tensions, then we have to once again go back and talk to our friends in China and say, look, this is not headed in the right direction. Let's find ways to bring the levels of tension down, to de-escalate, and so that we do not get to the point where one of our forces, your vessels, our vessels, the sailors that sail on them make a mistake or there's a misunderstanding. So let's continue. So we continue to talk, and that is something that has been really ongoing. Every time there is an incident, I suppose you could call it a recess. Let's not do that anymore. What was the problem? How did it occur? Why? How do we avoid it in the future? So that's what that reset really means, in that we try to bring the level of tensions, we try to bring even sometimes the language that is being exchanged down a notch, as it were. So that's the reset. That when we talk about reset, that's what we mean.
Sir, on the aspect of joint oil and gas exploration, I think PFA has recently disclosed that there were initial exchanges on that aspect. So where are we at now on said discussions, and do we have a timeline for this? This is in light of the urgent need to diversify our sources of oil given the Middle East crisis.
Well, the discussion on the joint exploration for oil and gas has been going on for many years. But of course, it gained prominence, the discussion gained prominence in the recent past when we had our energy emergency. And we started to think, well, we have to find ways so that should something like this happen again, where the supply of petroleum products is cut, the prices go up, and the effects that it has on the daily lives of our people and the economy of the country is deeply affected. We have to find new ways. So that's why, as I said, this discussion has gained prominence. And where are we at now? I think we have moved forward. There were several issues from the beginning that we are slowly working through. And I can see a distinct possibility that there will be such joint exploration. It is just in terms of the terms of reference of what we are going to do. Like any joint venture, G2G, or if it is purely commercial, you have to define between yourselves, between the parties, the terms of reference. That's what we are doing now, and we're working through them, and we're making progress.
Would it be within your term, sir?
I'm sorry?
Would it be possible to happen within your term?
To have a
joint oil and gas exploration with China within your term?
Certainly. The Philippines needs additional supplies of oil and gas, and we need to explore the possibilities that we have in the Philippines, in the West Philippine Sea, and whatever else we can take advantage of. So yes, definitely, we wouldn't be making these discussions. We wouldn't be having these discussions if it was not with a view to actually at the end having such a joint operation.
Mr. President, just to clarify, her question is if how likely it will happen under your term.
That depends on how these. That depends on how the discussions go. I think the sense that I get is that all parties involved want it to succeed, and that is always a very good sign. I could not give you a definite timetable, I'm afraid.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Up next, Mr. President, is Ms. Regine Cabato of the Wall Street Journal.
Hello, Mr. President. Also on the topic of China, would an invasion of Taiwan happen? Would you allow the U.S. military to launch offensive actions from Philippine bases and territory? And how do you see the Philippines in such a scenario?
No, there will be no attacks on anyone from the Philippines. The Philippines has no desire to be a belligerent nation in the region. I mean, we have no interest in that. All we are concerned about is the defense of our territory and the maintenance of peace and stability in the region. That is all that the Philippines is concerned with. That is all the Philippines will promote. That is all that the Philippines will endorse and support. So to allow an attack on anyone from the Philippines is contrary to that policy. So we will stick with that policy where all that we do is work hard to maintain peace and stability in the region.
Is there anything more, sir, that you would like the U.S. Or maybe other partners to do in the Philippines that would help bolster deterrence in the region?
Well, actually, that question does not belong to the Philippines. The Philippines does what we do, again, to defend our territory, to the continuation of the exercise of our sovereign rights and the recognition of our sovereignty. What other countries choose to do is really not something that the Philippines has much influence on. So, again, what the United States, or for that matter, any other country chooses to do is really an internal matter for them and how they choose to handle their own foreign policy. When it involves the Philippines, again, we hew back to that policy where we are not interested in being a belligerent force. We are simply interested in the defense of the Republic, the continued exercise of our sovereign rights, and the recognition of our territorial imperatives.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Up next, Mr. President, is Mr. Jason Gutierrez of the New York Times and former FOCAP president.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
In our quest to distance ourselves from too much economic reliance from China, are we not sacrificing natural resources in our bid to host a tax silica hub that could strain power and local water supplies or resources?
Distancing ourselves from?
Distancing ourselves from too much economic reliance from China.
I don't think that that's in any policy statement that we are distancing ourselves from China. We are continuing to find many instances where we are very much in cooperation with China. China is one of the biggest investors still in the Philippines, and just as an example. During when the war first broke out in the Middle East, China was one of the countries that we engaged with. We engaged with many countries, but China was one of the countries we engaged with. And to the credit of the People's Republic, they dealt with that engagement on a purely practical, business-like, professional level. And all of these, shall we say, conflicting claims in the West Philippines, he simply did not enter into that discussion. And so that the idea that we are somehow distancing ourselves from China, quite the contrary. China is only one of two countries where we have a no visa policy. And so that is hardly distancing ourselves from China. We're opening our doors to China and to Chinese travelers. The other country, by the way, is India. So those are just the two countries that we now have a no visa policy with.
So just to follow up, sir, will the benefits actually outweigh the risks of hosting such a facility? And the U.S. is positioning itself as with this PAC Silica thing, as it's an alternative for Chinese investments.
Again, I don't see it in that way. It's not a binary thing. It's not either or. In our case, whenever someone is interested to come into the Philippines to invest, so long as it is to the mutual benefit of all parties involved, then that for us is a good deal, and it is a good deal that we will enter into, no matter where it comes from. If it comes from the U.S., if it comes from Europe, if it comes from China, if it comes from Japan, if it comes from Korea, if it comes from Canada, Australia, we engage with anyone. What we are interested in is to benefit our people in terms of jobs, in terms of investment into the country, in terms of the advancement of our capabilities, in terms of technology, in terms of training, reskilling and upskilling, all of those things. And so long as we are able to move the economy forward and to better the lives of our people, then that is something that we will certainly examine. And if it turns out that is a beneficial agreement or arrangement, then certainly we will become part of it. We will want to be part of it.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I do have a follow-up question on that, sir. There's a lot of talk now among Filipinos regarding the PAC Silica initiative. I've actually visited it when it was launched with Undersecretary of the U.S. and BCDA, but Filipinos are concerned that once this hub is already established in the Philippines, it would exploit our minerals and displace our indigenous peoples. What assurances, sir, can the Philippine government give so that, in our quest to provide more jobs and economic activity for the Philippines, the rights of Filipinos will not be trampled?
Well, I cannot see how another country can come into the Philippines and, for example, exploit our minerals without the agreement of the Philippine government. Any kind of arrangement. In fact, let's stay focused on that particular subject in terms of the national treasure, in terms of let's say our minerals. For example, nickel, let us say. The Philippines has the second largest reserves of nickel in the world. Right now, all that we are doing is we are exporting raw ore. And then it is processed somewhere else. The value that is added in that processing does not stay in the Philippines, that goes in another country. This provides us an opportunity to start the processing in the Philippines. Therefore, the value added to that will be left here in the Philippines. We take our example from what Indonesia did. And I remember having a conversation with then President Widodo about this. And he was saying what shall we say, the dollars that they get from exporting raw ore was a certain amount. And he said, so they banned the export of raw ore and made sure that the processing was conducted in Indonesia. Now, to be able to do that, you have to develop the processing centers. You have to provide the power for that processing centers. And if you cannot do it yourself, you do it in partnership with either a purely commercial venture or a G2G arrangement or some hybrid arrangement. And that is the Philippines fully exploiting our own treasure, our own national treasure, our own natural resources. So that is a specific example, but it applies to many, many of the other things that, you fall under the category of our natural resources.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now may I call on Ms. Raisa Robles of the South China Morning Post.
Should be.
Good afternoon, Mr.
Good
President. Thank you for coming, and congratulations on your latest SONA. That was a very good speech, and
Oh,
I look
thank you.
forward to your next one next year.
That is very high praise coming from you, especially.
Okay. As co-executor of your father's estate, you were responsible for settling the estate tax. Your father died in 1989. As of the year 2021, the Bureau of Internal Revenue computed the unpaid amount due to penalties at 2.3819 billion pesos. Your family has actually won some civil forfeiture cases filed against your father's ill-gotten wealth. And therefore, as a result, the assets went to you and your family. Have you settled the estate tax due to these assets you already won, plus the penalties that accrued as a consequence of not only not paying the estate tax, but also not filing any estate tax return, at the very least from 1990 to 2021? And if you have finally settled the estate tax, what were the terms of the settlement?
You asked me this question a couple of years ago, and I'm afraid I have to give you the same answer. Because as you rightly put, let me just first go back and make one point. The reason we won those civil cases is because they were proven to be not ill-gotten wealth. And so to characterize them as ill-gotten wealth, immediately I have to respond and to say, kaya nga kami nanalo dahil napatunayan namin na hindi ito ill-gotten wealth. Anyway, to get to your question, I'm afraid I have to give you again, I will tell you the same thing I told you then. You know more about this than I do. And I have to admit that I have neglected some of my duties as co-executor because I've been very busy with all the things that a president is busy with. And when it comes to when it comes to prioritization for things that I spend time with and that I focus on, this is a family matter. The matters of state and governance are 1,000 times more important than any family matter. In fact, I would say 113 million times more important than any family matter. And that is why I've left it to the lawyers. My mother plays her part. She's the other co-executor. But again, you will have to talk to my legal advisors about that. I'll give you the number of my lawyers, and they'll be happy to explain really the evolution of this entire thing. I hear about it in passing, but I don't really sit in on meetings, and I don't really concern myself with that so much. I believe that I have some very good legal advice, and I leave it up to them. First of all, I'm not a lawyer, so that legal advice is not something that I fully understand, and it's not something that I spend time on. Like I said, it's a family matter which pales in importance in comparison to what I have to do in my day-to-day work. I'm sorry, I cannot give you a better answer than that.
Mr. President, if you pay the estate tax, that would form part of the income of the government.
Yes.
And you could use it for AFP modernization, or the poor, or for building schools. So that is a very important thing. Anyway, sir, My next question also was about 2 years ago. I asked you, in the last FOCAP luncheon with you, I asked you about the Arelma assets.
The?
Arelma
Oh my
assets.
God, I haven't heard that word in
Yes,
almost 20 years.
but sir, your lawyers are finding the case up to now in New York. These were originally funded in 1972 when your father declared martial law,
Yeah.
using a shell corporation named Arelma in Panama. Arelma placed around $2 million in a brokerage account in Merrill Lynch. And much later, Arelma told the PCGG the assets form part of your parents' ill-gotten wealth. And the bearer forms pertaining to those assets were turned over to PCGG. But you, through your lawyer, blocked the actual turnover by Merrill Lynch to the Philippine government. It's stuck somewhere in a Singapore bank. In the last FOCAP luncheon, I asked you for an update on the case, and you specifically told me, talk to my lawyer.
Again. Yeah.
May I therefore now ask you to give me the name of your lawyer and how to get in touch with him, and could you tell him, please, that I will be calling him and I have your permission to talk to him. Thank you.
Yes, please do that, because I cannot add anything
Yes,
to
sir, but
In fact, I
how
was
do
going to
get in
thank
touch
you
with
for
your
all the
lawyer?
information that you have provided us here today, because I don't know these details. Even when we were in the States, in exile, even when we were in the States, I was not involved in any of these legal proceedings. And since I came back, after the 6 years that we were disallowed from coming home, those cases again went to court, and I don't know what's happened to them anymore, quite frankly. So my lawyers will know. So again, yeah, feel free to give them a call.
Could you give me a point person in the presidential palace to talk with your lawyer?
Sure. They're not
Who?
here right now, so I'll have to speak to them, and they'll be in touch with you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
It will be arranged probably after
Yeah,
the Q&A, Raisa.
Thank you.
All
We'll
right.
share their information with you, their contact information,
Yes,
so that
thank you.
you can make these inquiries with them.
Thank you for the assurances, Mr. President. Now let's move on to a question on the economy. May I call on Mr. Ramon Royandoyan of Nikkei?
Hi, sir. Thank you for doing this. Mr. President, between Middle East-driven energy shocks and a slowdown in infrastructure spending following the flood control corruption scandal, inflation, and a record low peso, it's squeezing Filipino households. What immediate measures will you take to lower fuel, power, and food costs over the coming year without widening the fiscal deficit?
Well, I think I mentioned several of these measures that we have undertaken in the last State of the Nation address, and that is to ease the burden of taxation to certain sectors of the economy, especially those who are paying less than 300,000, who are earning less than 300,000. The removal of the corporate tax on the MSMEs, the continuing provision of benefits for people. Now, you're absolutely right, because the growth rate is heavily dependent on public spending, and that has been delayed. And this is what really happens. Usually, when the NEP is issued, the contracts that are contained within the NEP are already bidded out. And so that when January 1st comes, the project can proceed. So it's a way of saving time and making sure that the project proceeds immediately. With what happened last year, where we had to re-examine the budget very, very closely, those contracts were not bidded out. And they were bidded out towards the end of the first quarter of this year. Kaya that is what happened. That's why it delayed the public spending. Now, public spending we have taken very many measures to accelerate the rate of public spending. And as of the end of the second quarter of this year, we are only at a shortfall of about 7% year on year in terms of public spending. We will make that up for the rest of the year, and so that the inflation rate, the rate of growth should, the growth rate, the GDP growth will show an increase because of the increase in activity. So this is what we are also running into, because we had, as I said, accelerate public spending. What we are running into very much is the absorptive capacity, not only of the government agencies, but also of the contractors. They can only do so much work. So you're throwing money at the problem simply doesn't solve it, doesn't make anything better. And that is the balance that we have been, that we are trying to manage right now. But again, in terms of public spending, we are pretty much on current in terms of our scheduling. And we will be, again, I'm confident we will be able to catch up and exceed the year-on-year public spending by the last quarter of this year. And the effects of that will show in terms of the growth rate. And in terms of inflation, actually we had our core inflation at the beginning of the year was at 2.5%, more or 2.6%. It is only when the war started in the Middle East. And as you know, core inflation does not include fuel and food. And those are precisely the two commodities that increased dramatically in price. We were working with the price of oil when we before the war started, we were at about 72 and change, and now it reached about over 100. Now, when they say Brent crude is at 100, that doesn't mean that you can buy it at 100. You're paying 180, and that's the real inflation in those prices, and that shock was immediately felt in all of it, in all that we were doing. And it was not only the pricing that increased. It was also the supply that decreased. So the demand and supply forces immediately came into play, and that's why the inflation went up. That's why the inflation went up. Our headline inflation went up mainly because of those two items. Now, so that is why part of the public expenditure that I spoke about was direct benefits in terms of what we refer to as direct transfer payments, benefits. Like we subsidized the price of diesel. Especially in the transport sector, we put them under contract so that every kilometer that they make, that they are running, they get an extra benefit from the government. So all of these things were really to try and bring those levels down. We are now running, our inflation went down a little bit in the last quarter by about 0.2-0.3%. But we're still quite high. We're still at 6.3, 6.4%, depending on how you calculate it. So we are hoping that because the price of oil now, at least in the world market, is running in the 80s. It still fluctuates. And it is not so much now that the price that is determining all of that. It is because of it is because of the uncertainty that the price is becoming is so volatile, and that volatility erodes confidence, and that erosion in confidence means people do not spend their money because they don't know what is going to happen next month or 2 months, 3 months from now. And that is what we are having to deal with, and what we are trying to do with the economy is to bring stability back into our economic system, so that people, households, business people can plan, and in that way will be more. The atmosphere or the sentiment will be more conducive to investment and savings, which is what we are trying to increase. So we focus on those who were spending a large percentage of their income on precisely food and fuel, and those are the areas that we focused on. In terms of supply of oil, in terms of the pricing of oil, we provided subsidies, we provided incentives, and in terms of food, we were also very focused on keeping the pricing down. We lowered the tariffs on imported rice. We keep the program. We have expanded the program of 20 peso rice, and we are providing benefits now to 7.5 million families, Filipino families. So the usual calculation is to multiply that by 4 or 5 to see how many actual people are feeling the effects of those measures that we are taking. So again, it is we hope that this is not a new normal, that it will be like this forevermore. We are hoping that the situation in the Strait of Hormuz improves. We hope that the situation in all of the waterways that are being used to transport petroleum products are stabilized, so that we can now count on some assumptions that we can make so that we can plan on the national and economic development. So there are many moving parts here, many of them out of our control, but we are trying to be as agile as possible and to prepare in the longer term for the possibility of this happening again. So that, let us say, this particular situation is normalized, something else happens, something like COVID happens once again. Then we have now developed many other options. We have approached what we refer to as non-traditional partners in terms of agreements, economic agreements, trade agreements, those that we put in during the onset of the emergency, and what we now are counting on as regular suppliers for petroleum products, for food, trade in general. That they widen the footprint, and the wider the footprint, the more stable the economy should be. In terms of the exchange rate, it is a strong dollar. The peso, we are trying to defend the peso, but it's not something that we are spending all our money on at all, by any means. And as you know, the dollar is usually regarded as a safe harbor during times of uncertainty, and that's why people have invested in. That's why the foreign exchange for the dollar value has increased vis-a-vis relative to many, in fact, most currencies around the world because of that. The strange. There's a strange phenomenon that we cannot quite figure out yet. Usually it's dollar and gold, the safe harbor, but gold's not behaving like it usually does. So that's not something that we bother ourselves about.
Sir, follow-up question. What's your reaction to BSP Governor Remolona saying earlier that growth in the second quarter was disappointing? How can you convince investors essentially of investing in the Philippines, considering the Philippines' poor economic performance and concerns surrounding governance, especially corruption, since it's been such a big issue in the past year?
Well, again, I think that we have taken as many measures as we can in terms of the corruption and the bringing accountability to all of those who have been involved in this very large scandal that I unearthed and exposed during the SONA before this last one. And that is, we have taken the measures, and those measures should allay the fears of investors and when they to invest further in the Philippines. And I do believe that if we look at the numbers in terms of investments that are coming into the Philippines, they continue to increase. And the real reason for that is not so much looking at the inflation rate, because we all regard this period as a temporary phase in all of these developments that are happening around the world. But what really counts for businessmen are the measures that we've taken to improve the ease of doing business, to identifying the particular sectors which we are providing initiatives for, that we are providing incentives for. And that is what really matters to investors, to prospective investors. The numbers are still reasonable. The growth rate is, of course, very disappointing. But if we look at the basic policies that we have undertaken and that we have made, the policy decisions that we have made, that they were effective until this energy crisis arose. So once this emergency should be considered over, then I hope that we will return to the investors' confidence, not only in the Philippine economy, but in the world economy. Because this is what's happening. It's not happening just to the Philippines. People have pulled in their investments because they don't know what's going to happen next. And so we suffer the same consequences as many other countries have done as well.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, sir. Up next is Mr. Daisuke Kikuchi of Kyodo News.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. My question is about following a recent summit with Japanese Prime Minister Sanai Takaichi. In the last May, during the summit, you reached an agreement on the delimitation of maritime boundaries. So my question is, how will you proceed the discussion about the delimitation boundary? Also, by when will you expect to hope to reach a conclusion?
Yeah, well, let me explain a little bit, what this process is, this border delimitation that we're talking about. It comes from a difference in the definition of our borders. This happened before, actually, and it is a situation that I'm quite familiar with because I was an author in the baselines, the baselines law, where we define the baselines around the country. And what happened was that our baselines crossed with Indonesia. And so there was a bit of a crisis there because we do a lot of fishing in those waters. And there was a conflict, there was a disagreement rather, on how, which waters belong to Indonesia and which belong to the Philippines. We since have come to an agreement with Indonesia. Basically, we drew a line down the middle. And that brought back our fishing industry. Our fishing industry was moribund for months until we fixed that problem. With Japan, it is just simply the same process wherein we decide bilaterally between Japan and the Philippines what we agree upon are our boundaries. Because, as I said, some of the lines cross one another. And so we have to agree amongst ourselves, between the Japanese government and the Philippine government, where the border actually where we will define the border to be, and that will be what we will going to go by. I do not see any great obstacle to this. Our discussions with the government of Japan, and it's something that I did bring up to the Prime Minister Takaichi when I met with her, and I do not see any particular obstacle. So, although there is not a strict timetable, we are hoping to get it done by this year. We hope to get it finished by the end of the year.
Okay, thank you. Just quick following up. After announcement of the starting of the discussion, China strongly criticized about it. So, how will you address China's opposition about the discussion?
About the
Discussion about the delimitation maritime boundary.
Well, it is essentially a bilateral discussion between Japan and the Philippines. However, if there are any other stakeholder parties that are interested to speak up and to give their input, that's something that it depends on Japan and the Philippines as to how to handle those. So we certainly take into account any input that any other country has to offer. But essentially, it is a bilateral agreement, and so it is really up to Japan and the Philippines to decide on where the border lies, and we take in all of the insights and the perspectives of anyone who has an interest in it. But again, in the end, it is a bilateral agreement between Japan and the Philippines.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
My next question.
Very quickly, please.
Yeah, okay. The relationship with the Philippines and Taiwan. Recently, Taiwan's top diplomat, Lin Jialong, said Taiwan is stepping up efforts to strengthen partnership with the Philippines and other neighboring countries to push back against China's latest maritime pressure. So, do you positively respond this Taiwan's remark? And more practically, like, would the Philippine administration meet with Taiwanese counterpart or increasing maritime patrol to northern territory? Thank you.
Yeah, well, we have been doing business with Taiwan for a very long time, since they are a very close neighbor. And those arrangements and partnerships that we have with them continue. However, this is very much in the context of our One China policy. We continue to respect and to behave with that policy as the dominant principle in the treatment of both the People's Republic of and our more local engagements with Taiwan. So I do not see whatever arrangements that are made. We have the what we call MECO, which is and the TECO, which are the two bodies that serve, but they are purely commercial in nature, and we do not really enter into other kind of arrangements with Taiwan. Again, because we hew close and continue to engage China within the context of our One China policy.
Thank you so much.
Down to our last three reporters lined up for this afternoon, Mr. President. Up next is Mr. Andreo Calonzo of Bloomberg News.
Bloomberg.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. Thank you for braving the rains to be with us. Investors and markets are already looking to 2028 for signs of continuity or not continuity. So, if I may ask about domestic politics, will you endorse somebody, a candidate against Vice President Sara Duterte in the upcoming 2028 elections?
I will certainly endorse a candidate in the 2028 elections. Who that is, I cannot tell you because even I don't know. So, maaga pa eh. It's a little early for that, and we don't know. We only have, so far, we have only one person who has thrown their hat in the ring. So that's we're very, very early on in that process. But of course, I have a political party that I belong to. Though that political party, the PFP, is going to make its alliances with other parties, and how that ends up in terms of the actual joint candidate with other parties, or if not, our own candidate. Of course, many names have been thrown around. Surveys are already being run to compare tandems, this president and vice president against this president and vice president, and looking at the numbers. Well, they're interesting, but I don't know how useful they are, only because it's far too early. And there are so many political events that are still going to happen between now and that time. And so it's very hard for me for myself even to make a decision now. I would say that if I decided now, it would be premature. We have to see how things really shape up. Sa ngayon, puro ano lang eh, puro haka-haka lang. Baka tatakbo si ganito, baka tatakbo si ganyan. And it's not, put it this way, I haven't sat down with anyone and said, do you want to run for president or not? No, we've not come anywhere near that. So the time will come though, the time will come. And we will provide, at least from a very partisan point of view, we will certainly provide the best candidate to the betterment of the lives of every Filipino. That we will choose the best possible candidate to continue what we have started and to bring even new and hopefully even better initiatives to the development of our country.
As a follow-up, Mr. President, you mentioned surveys. So how do you feel when you see surveys showing that Vice President Duterte is the leading preference to succeed you? And in relation to that, our country has a history of former presidents being jailed and pursued by their predecessors. Do you fear that at all?
No. I don't really worry about surveys, quite frankly. I don't really, because of course I see them, but it doesn't make any difference to me. I don't change my decision because of the survey. I don't change direction because of a survey. I take a decision because that's what I feel is a proper decision to make. I adopt a policy because I believe that is the best policy. And a survey doesn't really come into it because it does not determine the rightness or wrongness of what I'm trying to do or what my government is trying to do. It's not that I don't care. Of course you care. You're a politician, but it only to a very small extent. You know, if your numbers aren't good, I wish they were better. If your numbers are good, then you say, oh, great, they're good. But once that stays in my mind maybe for a minute or two, and then I get back to work after that. Thank you.
Up next is Mr. Chad Williams of Agence France Press.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. Thanks for taking the time today. About a year ago, you pledged to tackle a flood control scandal that has shown a very, very harsh spotlight on the Philippines' issues with endemic corruption. Do you believe you've personally done enough to confront that issue in the 12 and a half months since that speech? And what concrete, measurable systems do you think Filipinos can expect to be in place before the end of your term that tackle those issues?
They are already in place. Many of those measures are already in place. In terms of the transparency that we have, well, first of all, let's say those in terms of accountability. Let's take that first. because that has gained the most interest amongst the public. In that cases have been filed, people have been put behind bars. There are continuing investigations into those who are going to be held accountable, who have to be held accountable for any wrongdoing in terms of corruption, in terms of the flood control scandal. I think that's the general term now that everyone uses. So that is ongoing, and I would not be surprised if that continues to go, that those investigations and this kind of self-examination in terms of the government continues to go beyond my term, beyond 2028. I sincerely hope it does, because that will keep people on their toes and continue to discourage people from going back to these old practices. And because that is really what I had hoped to achieve. The reason that I exposed all of this in the SONA before last was simple, because I was shocked by what was going on, and I said we have to, it is so endemic and it is so deeply rooted in the way, in our thinking, in our political culture, that you have to do something fairly radical to change the it's not, paradigm shift is actually even a bit of a weak term for it. You have to change the culture, change the thinking of the way people view their positions in government, and that is what we are trying to do. And that is why when I say I hope this continues beyond my term, that is because then we will have succeeded in changing that culture. And so, as an effect of that, is that we have then the people who have gone, who are in detention right now, who have been charged. There are continuing investigations that are ongoing. The ombudsman is a very, very busy man these days because of all of these accusations, all of these allegations that they have to examine, that they have to investigate, and if need be, file cases. On the reforms that we have done, specifically to the DPWH, the Public Works and Department, we have, in terms of accountability and in terms of transparency, we are much improved. Number one, of course, is our transparency portal that we did not have before, that we have now created, so that every citizen, or not anyone, not even citizen, anyone, can go to those portals and check exactly in detail what are the projects that are ongoing in a district, in a town, and what is the specific project, and should they choose to, they can go and inspect it themselves. And should they find that those are not going well, or they are ghost projects, or they are substandard, or the contract is questionable, then they can report it back to us. Since the time after the last year's SONA, we have received thousands of reports from around the country, and we have taken, and those have been extremely helpful to us in going to look, because of course our people, the public works people, cannot be everywhere all the time, and it has been an important part of this process of accountability and transparency, the reports that we have been getting from people. But this we have extended not only to the public works. If you look, there are now dashboards for most departments in the government. And again, they can go to those portals, they can go to those websites, and they can check specifics. And that is what I insisted upon. Don't give me a general thing that this province has X billion in terms of project. I need to know the town, the barangay, and the very specific location of that, so that should anyone choose to go and inspect it themselves, then they know where to go, they know what to look for. And should there be a problem, it goes both ways as well, because we also have received reports it's going well. But the majority, of course, is saying, well, we don't see the progress that that has been reported. It's reported as finished. It doesn't look finished, or it's broken already because it was substandard. All of these things have been have played an important part in that process of shifting the approach that we have had in the recent past on how government should behave. So that anti-corruption, the progress on the anti-corruption measures that we are taking continues and will continue, and I hopefully continue until we have changed the way we think, the way we do business, the way we feel that all government officials and all the attached contractors, attached groups, agencies, etc., behave, and how they view this kind of activity, this kind of wrongdoing, that it is in fact wrongdoing and it will not be tolerated. That's the basic lesson that we're trying to teach everyone, or we're trying to inculcate in everyone's thinking, that this is not allowable, and we will not allow it, and it should not be allowed. It is a tragedy that it was allowed for so many years, and we are finding instances of this not only in the past years, but in the past maybe 20 years we see things. For a while there, the more we looked, the more we found. We're getting to the end of that, by the way, and then hopefully we are beginning to see the beginnings, where it all started, how it evolved into this situation, and now we are coming up with measures to be more secure in the knowledge that these will no longer be repeated. So we are putting measures in place for that, both legal, both administrative, and again, transparency portals such as what we have now with the Department of Public Works. We have them now as well in other departments. The Department of Economic Development has their own, which goes to all the big projects that are undertaken, especially the foreign assisted projects. Then all the other directions that we are taking are very clearly specified what needs to be done, and a constant monitoring that we are now doing. Whereas before, we signed the contract and we left the contractor to do what they would. We no longer do that. We now stay on it, and the people and their reports that are coming to us are an essential part of that process.
Quickly, as you're saying, a lot of this stuff in terms of oversight are just now being put into place, and as you note, you personally brought this issue to the spotlight in your first zone address on it a couple years ago. But how much, if any, portion of the blame can go back to the administration, given that some of these funds flowed from what are called here unprogrammed appropriations?
I don't, well, it depends how you define the administration. Do you define the administration as everyone who belongs in government? Or
I would define it here as the person who can make the decision on this amount of money that some critics would say is basically, pork barrel spending. Or
sure. You just mentioned oversight. Many of these oversight measures were actually in place. They were just not being respected or used, and people would serve paper over these things. So we're bringing it back to where it should be. Anyway, now one of the focus points that we found that we had to deal with was the amount of discretion that is exercised by officials in government, and we noticed that discretion has gone to a lower and lower part of the administration, until rank and file members are making decisions that are in the billions of pesos, that are in fact a very gray area, if not absolutely and totally illegal. So that is one of the measures that we have put in, is to remove that discretion. And the tool that we are using to remove that discretion, as much of that discretion as possible, because that's where the corruption comes in. If I let us say a functionary, can make big decisions, then I can ask for money and say, I will decide it in your favor if you give me money. If you give me, or if we come to an arrangement where I profit or you profit, or do something that is disadvantageous. What the term is disadvantageous to the government. So digitalization is our most powerful tool for that, because we remove that human element where wastage, corruption can creep into, and that I think is what we consider to be the administration's responsibility in fixing those processes so that that discretion is not abused and is not exercised unnecessarily, and again, not exercised not applied to illegal and to wasteful activities. And that's where I believe this administration has focused, and that is what we are continuing to focus, to make, again, the process safer and more equitable in terms of our spending and the projects that we are undertaking.
Thanks. Lastly, you did mention at the last SONA that charges were imminent against the former House Speaker, your cousin. I wonder if there's any update when you would expect those charges to land, if it be in the next month.
I think you should be asking that question of the Ombudsman, not me. I am not privy to the investigation that is being conducted by the Ombudsman. I am not privy to any kind of schedule. But the Ombudsman and his officers are very much on this subject, as I'm sure you have gleaned from his statements that he has been making in the past few weeks. So we leave it to the Ombudsman, and now that you've asked me, I'll give him a call and see ask him how is it going, just to give for my own edification.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Mr. President, just one quick follow-up on that. Are you confident that your anti-corruption measures that you're putting in place in your administration now will survive even after your term? And I ask that because there is a chance that political headwinds would change in 2028, and your critics are saying that the power of the state is being used to target allies of the Vice President amid her impeachment case. That's not really the way we approach the subject. I approach the subject from another direction. I'm more positive in the way I treat this. I'm not saying we do not want certain people. What I'm saying is that we are going to want this person who I will endorse. Because they are the best person for the future of the country, and the continuing attention that we are giving to corruption, to wastage, to all of these problems that government faces. This is not something that you can stop, because if you do stop, then we're back to the old system. Then we're back to all of these ridiculous contracts that you don't see any progress. You don't see that they're they're charged over and over and over again for the same project. All of these things that we have uncovered. That is an ongoing process. The government has to continue to do that, because the corruption is not a Filipino problem. Corruption is a human problem. There is corruption everywhere. What you want to do is to lessen and, if not eliminate it, as much as possible. And so, there are good guys and there are bad guys, and the bad guys are always going to try to gain an unfair advantage, and not to find a point in it, the bad guys are going to steal, and that's what you have to continue to watch out for, and that is why, to go back to the previous question about endorsing a candidate, the candidate I will endorse will be somebody who I am confident will continue what we have begun in terms of the anti-corruption measures. Thank you, Mr. President. And for the final question for this afternoon, may I call on Ms. Joanna Balyaran of GG Press.
Good afternoon, sir.
Hi, good afternoon.
I'm Joanna Balyaran from GG Press. Sorry, last na, sir. Sir, I'm going to ask about the Bangsamoro. No? So,
Yes.
Mr. President, violence continued in Bangsamoro despite establishing the BARM in 2019, holding back expected progress in the region. How will the upcoming elections deliver that long-awaited progress, particularly the promises of the comprehensive agreement on the Bangsamoro?
I will have to, I see it differently when you say that violence continues. Let us talk about the levels of violence. What we have now is not organized violence, not a secessionist movement, not organized violence against the government and against personalities. What we have now is banditry. And the main agents, the ones that especially during the secessionist movement in the 70s and the 80s, and even in the 60s, that is what held back the progress of the Bangsamoro region, of Muslim Mindanao in general. And you know, how many times have we heard the expression, Mindanao is the promised land? Because the possibilities, the opportunities that are available in Mindanao are immense, except for the violence that was ongoing at the time. That's no longer the case. I have been to several places in Muslim Mindanao, in Tawi-Tawi, in Sulu, where there was fighting before that are now resorts, that we have tourism going into that. And so, when you say violence is continuing, perhaps yes, to an extent that's true, but it is perhaps a very, very small in comparison. The level of that is very, very much lower in comparison to what we had before. Now, the development, I'm more worried about the development. I'm more concerned in making BARM a success. That it becomes a region, an autonomous region, that is successful in terms of providing service to its people, to its constituents, and that there will be progress in terms of the economies, in terms of jobs, in terms of people's livelihoods, etc. And that is why I hold out very much hope for the BARM elections, because it will be the very first time that we have a elected parliament that is running the autonomous government in Muslim Mindanao. And that will immediately, because now you will give a voice to all the stakeholders, and they're running their own show. It's not the Manila dictating them. Of course, they're a region, and they still belong to the national government. But in terms of local issues, it is very much parochial issues. So it will very much be decided by them, by themselves. And that is why we see from many quarters, from Muslim countries, from from Japan, from the EU, from again Muslim countries, Gulf countries, the interest that they have in coming into Muslim Mindanao when the time comes that that the situation is stable and no longer deemed as volatile. So that is why the elections in September are so important for the development of Muslim Mindanao. And it was just pointed out to me that the elections in September will be 50 years after the Tripoli Agreement. And if you want to go even further, the peace process began in 1968. And so this is the fruition of that entire process that went on from, shall we say, 68, then to the Tripoli Agreement, and then now we have BARM, and we will have an elected parliament. And if and the reason that I have great confidence that I'm such an optimist about it is because the fighters that were literally in the mountains fighting against government forces, they are now out there campaigning to be MPs, to be members of parliament, to be members of the Bangsamoro parliament. And for me, that is the best possible sign that they have now adopted. Instead of picking up their weapons, they are now using they are now involving themselves in the political process, which of course will bring peace and hopefully progress to the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region of Muslim Mindanao. It is as important an issue for me as anything else that I have in front of me. We hear over many years that there is a Mindanao problem. And I reject that characterization. It is not a Mindanao problem, it is a Philippine problem. And it is going to be good not only for Muslim Mindanao, it will not only be good for our Muslim brothers and sisters, it will be good for the Philippines. And that is why it is so important to me. And to have you remember, we were fighting on two fronts. We were fighting on the communist insurgency and we were fighting the secessionist movement. Both now have been markedly reduced. And now we can get on with progress. Which all of these conflicts had held us back from. So, yes, it is very, very important, and I I'm very optimistic that as long as we have a credible and transparent election and peaceful, of course, election in September, then that will be a huge step forward for the regional government of BARM. And I can see, I can already anticipate that the progress, the development that will go into BARM will be tremendous. It will be tremendous. I joke with some of my friends from the area. I said, when I'm done being president, I'm moving to Mindanao. Simply because the opportunities are just incredible. So I'll finally be a rich person. You know, I'll make a lot of money when I go back into business.
Thank you, sir. My final question is, with less than 2 years left of your term, what concrete legacy are you leaving to the Filipino people?
I worry about legacy. Legacy is when you die. I always worry when people talk to me about legacy. I'm not about to die anytime soon, despite the reports to the contrary. Legacy, I just hope we put the faith of people back in government. And that we now have a government that people can depend on, people can trust, and that people can talk to. Instead of having government telling you these are the things you do, I hope that we have started a listening government where we actually listen to people. We don't tell people what to do. And one of the ways that we have done that is the engagement that we have done with the local governments. As I always say, in politics, I grew up in local government. And that is why I've taken them on as a very, very, very important partner to national government. And that brings you closer to the people. And that gives you a better idea of what people are concerned about, because the local government know the situation in their area better than anybody else, better than the president, better than the cabinet secretaries, better than anybody else. You ask a governor about their province, they should, if they're a good governor anyway, they should know everything about their province. No one should know more about their constituency than them. Same applies to a mayor. Same applies to a barangay official. So that we make government more accessible, not only in terms of transparency, but accessible in terms of we can bring our concerns to government and we have enough confidence that they will in fact do something about it. Because it's one thing that I always say about when I entered became a national government official rather than a governor, is that we should listen more to local government for the simple reason that we always think, well, all they'll bring is their problems and what they want. But that's not necessarily true. Because of the knowledge that local government executives have of their constituency, they also bring solutions. They say, this is the problem, and in our view, the best way to solve it is this. It may not be perfect, but it is something that will give you an idea of how to proceed, how to make this, how to get these things, how to improve matters. And so that's what that it's a more open government. And secondly, that we move the country forward. I have been saying this since I was well, for a long time now. I don't even remember when it started, but I remember when I first was becoming conscious of politics and government. All I kept hearing, not naman all, but what I kept hearing was nation building. We are here to build a nation. And after I came back from the States, I never heard that phrase again. Did you hear that phrase since 1991? I haven't heard that phrase ever. And that's what now we are bringing back that idea that government is not here to coast and to just, sit back and I don't know what, make pasikat and make payabang. And no, government is there to build the nation. And that's what I hope that we have started to be. It is a long road to build the nation. It is a difficult process, and there are growing pains in everything that you do. Every change, of course, entails all kinds of adjustments, some pleasant, some not so. So it's a difficult process. But hopefully we have started that process once again of nation building, that we are making the country better. We're not just custodians and just making sure it's the same, nothing new, just do the same, business as usual, no new initiatives, no, it's too hard, it's too complicated, people won't understand. You have to get away from that. We have to get away from that and say, what are we going to do in 20 years? What are we going to, where will we be in 25, 30 years? And what can we do now to get to that point that we aspire to? That's the legacy, I hope. And hesitant as I am to speak about legacy, that's the legacy I hope to leave, that now government is your partner, hand in hand with every citizen, with every sector, hand in hand, trying to build a better Philippines, trying to make the Philippines better, trying to make the lives of our people better, trying to create more jobs, trying to increase better the livelihood, trying to bring development, trying to be part of the global economy, an active part, an important part of the global economy. That's what we are trying to do. That's what I hope that we will leave when the time comes, in 2028, when the time comes, when we leave. That is what I hope that we will leave behind, is this culture of development, of nation building. If I can do that, if I have met with even some success to do that, then I will say that we have done a reasonably good job. We will never have done a perfect job, but we will have done a reasonably good job. Nation building once again returns to the government, once again returns to the people, once again returns to the country. That perhaps is the most important thing that I hope to achieve.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.